Welcome to the Draft Indie Podcast. I'm Grant Sinning. Tonight I'm joined by Alex Jacobson, Brian Krosky, and Garrett Stallings. So how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Pretty good.
Started the pod.
Back on the pod grind.
Just a random hit at like 2 hours ago. Hey, do you guys want a podcast? And here we are. And that's something this is going to be a tangent at first. Football brings people together.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, yes. It also is very divisive. But this past weekend, I had the opportunity to go back home, Indianapolis. I'm from an hour north of Indy, but my best friend lives in Indianapolis now, and got together. Trying to think like 11 people I haven't seen in 3 or 4 years since I last lived in Indiana. Came over, and it was a lot of fun. It ended up getting very wild at the end, and it got so wild that my friend who was going to the game with me didn't wake up until about 3:15, and the game started at 4:30, and it was probably a half an hour drive to the stadium. So that was always fun. We got there literally right as they kicked off, but it was a good time. But
Rep the Jack Doyle jersey.
Rep the Jack Doyle jersey. Met Jack Doyle's family. Okay, so this is weird. I'm in line. I'm getting a couple of waters. Again, very hungover. Getting a couple of waters and a pretzel. So much salt on the pretzel. It was kind of ironic that I got that because I was already way dehydrated with all the salt. But anyways, long story short, I'm like getting ready to walk back, and someone's like, "Hey, 84," and I'm rocking Jack Doyle's jersey, and I look over.
The only one in the stadium.
No, hold on. I'll get to that in just a second. So they're like, "Hey, 84," and I look over, and there's three or four, maybe five, ladies wearing number 84 jerseys, and they're like, "We're his family," and I'm like, "Oh, hey." Like, it's like kind of awkward at this point. They're like, "Do you know Jack?" And I was like, "No, I don't know Jack at all."
Know him.
And they were like, and so they're like, so what's with the number 84 jersey? And I was like, well, I run a podcast for the Colts, and last year we started just talking about every time I didn't call him Jack Doyle, but every time Jack got the ball, we would, he just always fell forward. He never lost yards. And I was like, it kind of became like an inside joke of the podcast. And then my father-in-law bought me a jersey, and they're like, "Oh, that's so nice, so nice." So I go back to my seat.
You should have, hold on. You should have have a business card that says Grant Sinning, founder CEO of the Jack Doyle fan club.
They said that they're the fan club, and I had to say, is ironic as it is, my Twitter name is Jack Doyle fan club, and they were like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can check out my at Draft Indie Grant." And the one woman had her phone on Twitter already out, and she looked it up, and she was like, "This is bizarre," and I was like, "Yeah, well, yeah, a little bit." So I go back to my seat. 20 minutes later, I'm standing. We had a row of 3 seats. It was great. I'm a big guy. Stadium seats small, so I was able to stand up. There was enough room to stand up. It was great. I was enjoying it. I look behind me. There's a dude in an 84 jersey behind me. No relation. This jersey was old. Like, this was an old Reebok jersey, okay? This dude's last name is Doyle. And 84 was just an arbitrary number that he picked out a long time ago. This jersey was busted. I mean, it's one of those old, you could tell it was old. And I'm just like, "So how do you know Jack?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't." I was like, "But I want to meet him." He was like, "Do you know where his family is?" And I'm like, "That's ironic because I literally just talked to him." But,
like a Twilight Zone episode.
It was just random. And he kind of stood behind me for 20 minutes after that. It was kind of got awkward, but I'm glad he left. But so back to the main point of that story. Football brings people together, just like us tonight. Here we are. We've never met in person, but we're the 4 best friends that anyone could have.
Exactly. So wait, is Alex here?
Alex is
Hello.
Here. He doesn't have his camera on.
Okay.
He doesn't have his camera on. It's okay.
Hey, Alex.
This is a podcast, so I mean, I don't know.
How do I not have the camera on? Oops. Okay.
Yeah. It's a podcast, and so we get 3/4 of our viewers on podcast and 1/4 of our viewers on YouTube. so that's okay. We don't have anyone watching us right now, even though we're live, but that's besides the point. We'll get there. We'll get there. We're internet famous for the Colts Twitter realm. Even though there's a bunch of other Colts podcasts popping up, guys, suggest you guys check them out. They might be better than us. I don't know. PFS has one.
I saw someone in the dining hall wearing a Colts shirt, and I was like, "Oh, nice shirt." He's like, "Oh, you a Colts fan?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Little does he know, in like the smallest sector of Colts Twitter, I'm like maybe like a little bit popular." I was like, "Little does this guy actually know."
I don't know. I don't know about that, Brian.
Little does he know that people follow me to listen to my opinions about Colts for some reason.
That's true. That's a very good point. So let's get into it. Brian and Alex and I were here last week. Was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. Talked a little bit about our 0-2 start and how we needed to get going against against the Chargers and the Jaguars. So we won. We won the the Chargers game. I'm already on a week 4, but anyways, we won the Chargers game. Being there, I didn't get. You don't really get good glimpses live, especially where we were sitting. We were actually kind of on a low angle, not to brag in the 100 section. So not to brag, but you couldn't see very well. But it was cool when there's touchdowns on your side of the field. But anyways, so I rewatched.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I like how you admit that being at the game doesn't give you like a special vantage point.
No.
Because there are people like, okay, Dunleavy, he goes to games and he's like, well, I was there and I can tell you. And like, no, you can't, because I'm watching the same game you are from much better angles with instant replay and slow motion.
Draft Twitter's like, I saw like, I've seen 4 games of his cut up, and I saw him live in person 2 times.
I was on the sideline. Yeah, no, you can't tell anything from the sideline. Coaches can't tell anything from the sideline. Coaches get back and they have their post-game conferences, and they're like, "Oh, I have to watch the tape to see how my team actually did because I don't know now."
The only good vantage point in a stadium is the media press box.
Yes, I can.
Unless you're in the middle of the field, above like in the 300 plus realm. Like when you're on the first level of most stadiums, you do not have a good angle, but if you're up in the upper decks towards the middle of the field, that's the only good seats live games. It's about the experience. It's not about watching the game. It's about having a few waters and a soft pretzel with your bud and meeting lots of family members of Jack Doyle. That's what it's about.
I mean, I can attest to the fact that there are a lot of misplaced press boxes in areas, but like overall, you're right. Especially just in a baseball stadium too. The higher up you are, obviously, the easier it is just to be able to have a better vantage point of everything.
Yeah. No, and I even sat once, again, not to brag, in the quarterback suite of Lucas Oil Stadium. It's in between the upper deck and the lower deck, but it's in the end zone. That's a terrible seat. It is awful. I mean, if the game's on the other side of the field, you don't see anything. You got to watch on the jumbotron. So, the stadium seat's not that good. But anyway, so I go back and I watch the tape, and it seemed like the game dragged on forever, like while I was there. But it kind of went by fast. Maybe this condensed version, coach's film. But anyways, I got to say one thing about my number one observation about the game. Henry's back. What's up?
Mm-hmm.
And Henry was good. We've been talking about it, and he was good. And it'll be interesting to see him get more snaps. Again, we talked about it earlier. Like he's going to come back, but he's not going to be, playing 90% of the snaps. He didn't play 90% of the snaps last year. He'll get more eventually as his leg gets stronger and he gets game fit. But
what were his PFF snaps? Like I know I looked over it, but I can't remember exactly how many snaps he did play.
I don't know. He played. I can look it up, but I mean, he was definitely a big part of that game towards the end.
I think he had like at least a pair of Hurdies, if not like a trio or like a quad of. I know he had like a hit and a pressure or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it was all toward the latter half of the game where he was beginning to bully offensive linemen.
But that's what we needed. So. But I just got to say another thing that I always need to mention, and it's about Phillip Rivers. That dude is a whiny little... I mean, man, like that... Like, people talked about Peyton Manning whining a lot when he was quarterback, and he kind of did. But Phillip Rivers is like a little child out on the field. Like every little thing that goes wrong, he's looking at the ref like crying.
I think it's his face. Something he has that little kid face.
Yeah.
When he gets upset,
Henry only played 18 snaps.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 or 3 hurries. So, I mean, that's a very good ratio to the amount of snaps that he was playing in the first game back.
That's good, and we definitely need him. Kerr, T.Y. McGill, very good in the preseason. Haven't really seen him much.
I don't know. Kerr has done a few nice things actually. He started out slow, but in the last 2 games, I thought he has flashed some stuff.
Yeah, Kerr against who was week 1?
Detroit.
Kerr against Detroit was terrible. But then he played really well against the Broncos. I know he had a sack in that game, and then did better against the Chargers. I mean, kind of surprised though. I haven't really seen anything from Kendall Langford though.
Yeah, I don't know if Langford's healthy because he was so much better than he is right now. This time last year,
they wanted to take their time with Henry that they rushed Langford back just so that they could have one of those.
Well, you're assuming a lot there, but I mean, it could just be that he can play through it. But playing through something doesn't mean. I mean, there are things that keep you out, and there are things that you can play through. But just because you're in doesn't mean you're all the way back.
So let's talk about this for a second because it's an interesting question. Next week, after the Jaguars game, Arthur Jones is off of suspension. What's going to happen? Are they going to take 7? Are they going to have 7 guys on the D line? Maybe.
I wonder if we see some McGill, Ridgeway, inactives, healthy scratches at some point. That makes sense to me.
Well, I mean, that makes sense, but I mean, do you think we get rid of one of those guys? Send somebody to practice squad or something? Because
I would just cut Art Jones.
Yeah, but I mean, we feel more invested in some of these guys like McGill than they do. But it's like they spent a mid-round pick on Ridgeway, so it is tricky. Because these are names we're all pretty familiar with at this point, so it's odd to think of letting any of them go.
Yeah,
it's such a loaded unit.
The only one I would be okay with them letting go is David Perry, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to do that.
And they can't because he's. I mean, yeah, he gets ridiculous number of snaps. He's actually got the most snaps. I'm looking at it right now. He's got 121 snaps. The next amount is Zach Kerr with 111. So I mean,
I think it's interesting though because this whole time we've been talking about this young prosperous D line, and then we also and Art Jones if he plays because like we said we've never actually really seen him play much, so he's always been an addendum to what our idea of this defensive line is, and nothing really would change. I feel like if he were to be cut.
They're not going to get rid of Perry this year, but I remember however many years ago is that they just cut Josh Chapman, who was the starting nose tackle, out of nowhere, and it ended up working pretty well because Perry had a nice rookie season. So if they don't like where he's at, they don't have a problem cutting him. They've shown that in the past.
That's true, especially with they have no loyalty to their mid-round picks as it is. You know what I mean?
That's a pretty good point.
Fourth plus round on, they're just whatever. If they're not cutting it, they're gone.
R.I.P. Josh Robinson.
Right. Let's keep on with this defense side of the ball because also Clayton's back, and he looked good. He's okay. We talked about multiple times. It depends on his development as a player, and from what we've seen so far, he's been good. He's wrapping. He's tackling much better. Much better. He's covered. He's been playing kind of that free safety role, but he's also kind of been sharing snaps. I don't know necessarily where he's at health-wise, but when he's been on the field, he's been very effective. Let me see. I would look at this here.
Grant, the piece that after you wrote your rookie wrap up on him, and we've been talking mostly that despite him being a physical, hard-hitting guy that he was at Central Florida, he's going to be the future kind of cover one safety. Not to get him to adjust to that role. So I think for anyone who's not a mainstream Colts fan would kind of struggle to understand that because when you think of Clayton Geathers, you're not thinking of a deep cover one safety. But it's good to see him still take part in both roles, playing close to the line and being a wrap-up tackler.
which is what they need because they're never going to have one safety be an all-time cover one safety. At least not Pagano's here, but so you have to show that you could play both positions, and they got a future tandem in Green and Gathers are guys who have shown they can do both at a pretty high level. So that's something.
Yeah,
I'm
excited about. I think I'm actually like really, really excited to think in a couple years that TJ Green and Clayton Gathers could be good. But I mean, for the meantime, I know a couple of the Colts writers were talking about like the package of having Gathers, Green, and Adams all in on one play. I know it was only a couple plays, but I kind of like that sub package of putting all three of them in.
I'm glad someone likes that.
Yeah, as long as I'd get behind that, but if Gathers is a linebacker, unless Gathers is a linebacker, because I did not like those snaps last year.
No, yeah,
it's interesting.
And Adams is like,
and yeah,
we need someone to cover tight ends because apparently we've not. What is the stat like? 15.
Well, then we shouldn't let oh crap,
Jarrell Freeman.
Yeah.
Oh, Garrett's gone.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
you're back.
We shouldn't have let him go.
Yeah,
I think the stat was like tight ends are 15 of 15 of being targeted for like 164 yards and a touchdown against the Colts.
It's weird because like we like these safeties, but they're the guys who are covering the tight ends more often than not. So they've done a lot, but they apparently none of them can still not cover tight ends, or none of them can cover tight ends, and this has been a problem for years now. So I wonder if it's the scheme that's putting these guys in 1-1 situations where they don't have a chance to win.
They play a lot of zone, right? Like that.
They have played a lot of zone.
They've played a lot of zone this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think they've done a lot of that just to make up for the deficiencies of coverage skills at the cornerback position.
Yeah, we'll see this year or this week. Everybody's healthy except for Trenton Cole, rest in peace. But this is the week where I think we've been waiting to see Montalcino's full scheme for like since preseason week 1, and keep thinking we're finally going to see it now. I think this is the week where you see if he's going to stay like Minuski and go incredibly man heavy with some blitzes mixed in, occasional zone, or do what he's been doing so far this season, which is primarily zone.
Yeah, and the thing about, I just want to make a point. The thing about zone is it's so tough because you're using it, like I said, to mask the deficiencies of the cornerbacks. But all these players, like what is it, like 4 defensive backs signed that like didn't play like any preseason snap for the Colts. So you have a bunch of new players in a new scheme who haven't played with each other, playing a defensive system where it works when those players are familiar with each other and know what zones to be in. And so you almost think that they'd be better off man because at least you know whose fault it is when someone gets beat. But there were just so many plays where like C.O. Moore and I don't even know, one of the cornerbacks, whatever their name is, going to the same area of the field and then there's wide open over the middle of tight end.
Yeah. So this week we'll just continue on with this conversation, moving over to cornerbacks. This week, Darius Butler did not make the flight to London. I think this is where we're going to see Vontae and Cromartie on the outside, P-Rob in the slot. And when they signed Cromartie, that's what I figured what was going to happen once everyone was back. So we'll have to see how that works out. Cromartie has not played well, in my opinion. But it's kind of funny because I still have I don't trust PFF on grading just about everything, but they have snap counts, so I have them open, and they have Antonio Cromartie as our best coverage cornerback, which is probably fair considering that like the Melvins and the Morrises, those guys, they're very, very bad, and hopefully they're cut soon, but they can't because you never know what the health of this team is going to look like. So it's very interesting. They've actually got him as a very high coverage grade of like a 76, so which is like above average for them, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if they can do the press coverage type scheme. But I think that once everyone, like now that we've got everyone healthy, I mean, we still have no pass rush. I mean, it doesn't matter really what we do with these corners when they can have all day to get open. I mean, eventually they'll get open on a cornerback. Robert Mathis, has he had a sack yet this year? I think we just have Eric Walden with 3, right?
And Zach Kerr with 1.
Yeah, that's great. So, we're not exactly, when Eric Walden's your sack leader, things there's an issue there. And I'm not sure where we're going to get the pass rush from. I mean, we lost our best blitzing inside linebacker with Jarrell Freeman. We've got Henry, who's good at pass rush. Kendall Langford was our best pass rusher last year, arguably.
Mm-hmm.
He's not playing 100%. And, now it's up to Kurt Magid, and I don't know. I think they've only got 3 outside line. Oh, Akeem Ayers. So Akeem Ayers has played well. In Spurs.
That's something though that's like a silver lining to Trent Cole being out is at least we get to see more of Akeem Ayers and how they want to play him and where they want to play him.
Yeah,
I think he's clearly an outside guy at this point, which was not what I was expecting. But I mean, with all the lack of depth, that's he was forced into that role, but he's taken to it well.
Right, and it's not that. It just I just don't know why he hasn't gotten more snaps. I mean, just put him out there to go forward, I suppose. But he wasn't here in training camp. He got here late. I can pull up snap count on him. 39 snaps compared to Walden's 137.
Yeah.
So
that's about what I expected. Walden's still now with Cole out, Walden's gonna be pretty much on most downs. He's gonna be on the field, which is not a good thing, but he's better than Akeem Ayers or Kurt Magid, so
for now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I didn't even know we had DeAndre's Mount on the practice squad. So anyway,
well,
go ahead.
Jay said Trevor Bates made the flight to London.
So he might make the 53.
I guess so. I guess he was on the flight.
I mean, they only have 52 on the roster, and I think they have to have 53 on game day.
And we only have 3 outside linebackers, we said, at this point, or 4?
It's
4 outside line.
It's 4,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, so he would be. I doubt he plays much, but he'd at least be a body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or a
just
healthy
interesting
scratch.
fact. Yeah.
Or a healthy scratch. It doesn't matter because Jaguars O-line's bad on the outside, so that's okay, I guess, for this game. Okay, that's the defense. I guess linebackers, same story.
It's really bad. It's
bad.
worse than any of us could consider. Like, we overestimated this, and we were really low on it to begin with. Like, it's rough. C.O. Moore had one good game and is played like one of the worst starters in football. So the rest of the year, DeQuell's still just boring. And
any notes on Antonio Morrison?
That's been bad.
San Diego game. Okay.
No, he played some early, but he's still bad. He kind of like what you saw on the tape. Over pursues, makes kind of bad angles, makes really bad angles, gets lost in coverage. But it's where now where the difference is between the NFL and college is now that his athleticism isn't supreme as it was at some points in college, and so you're not going to see him doing a lot of the things. And we don't have a good as good of a D line as Florida had.
We don't have a good of a period as Florida had.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to say it. It's such a everyone always gets mad, but
Blue cheese purple.
If you look at Florida's defense last year, just like to go starter by starter versus ours, their NFL future is probably brighter than.
I was just about to say you could probably pick 2 SEC defenses and switch them with ours, and we would be better. So, Alabama for sure.
Yeah, Bama.
Maybe outside of cornerback, well, just Vontae, but because the other guy's really good. But anyways, we'll not get there yet because people always get butthurt when you do that. I love that term. Offensive line. Let's go right there. So, LaRaven Clark might be suiting up for a game, and I am terrified.
Yep.
But it's against.
Well, fortunately, it's only Dante Fowler.
Yeah, it's Dante Fowler and Yannick Ngakoue. So.
Yo, Yannick's done really well. He's got 2 strip sacks so far this season.
Yeah, and
just like he's actually beating Fowler out for snaps.
So did Newsom. So we know how those stories play. But anyway, no, I'm not. That's just not a slide on him. He's actually played very well. But he'll most likely line up on Anthony's side. So, offensive line, most likely, I'm gonna guess if is Reitz out? Did they say he's out already?
I don't believe so, but I think he's questionable and hasn't participated in practice all week, from what I can tell. So that's incredibly unlikely he plays.
Interesting fact. Sitting in the family section of the Colts game, after he got hurt in the first half, his family was gone. They just left. There was like 7 of them. They all were wearing Reitz hats, and I wanted one, just so I could say I got one. But anyways, if he's out and Jonathan Harrison had an appendectomy, nothing you can do there. I mean, that's just something that pops up. We can blame the Colts trainers if we want to. I think we can.
I think it's time to start blaming them for something.
Yeah, we'll blame him for this. We'll blame him for an internal combustion of an organ. We'll do that for randomly anybody. But anyway, and then Harrison, I think, is also hurt. Or not Harrison. Good is still hurt.
Yep, Good is questionable too, and I know the people on Colts reporters on Twitter were talking about how they might have to start 2 rookies, which is just great. Or 3 rookies.
3
rookies. Yeah.
Really.
It looks like no matter where, either if it's at guard or tackle, Joe Haig's going to be starting this next game against the Jaguars, but depending on guard versus tackle, still up in the air.
So that's a question I was going to ask you guys. Would you rather have A, Blythe at right guard and Haig at right tackle, or B, Haig at right guard and Raven Clark at right tackle?
I'd rather have Blythe in.
You'd rather Blythe?
Yeah, Blythe easily.
I think Garrett had to leave. Yep, he's got to go. How do I close that? There we go. Okay. So it's
no, I don't want Raven Clark playing like this entire season at all.
Definitely don't want Clark playing, but also I think Haig is better at tackle than guard, and or actually I'm not sure about that. He's got to work at both, but yeah, just avoid Clark is all you really need.
And Haig didn't have the best game. I mean, it was his first time playing in the NFL against some okay defensive linemen, maybe. I don't know. I don't know where their team is really. I don't ever really pay attention to the Chargers, but he didn't look okay. I mean, there were some obvious communication issues, stuff like that. So it'll be interesting.
I know there was one sack on Luck, or it was a hit, and Luck got it out. That was like right on him, like he got beat 1-on-1. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't LaRaven Clark.
Right. Yeah, because LaRaven Clark would. Like, can you imagine if LaRaven Clark went out there?
Like, you'll see it when LaRaven Clark gives up a sack. Like, you see it coming the whole time. Like, as soon as it's snapped, like you're like, oh wow, like LaRaven Clark. Like you can call it out. Like LaRaven Clark's getting beat right now.
Yeah, because he's always like bent over, ready to assume the position. Like that's pretty much exactly how it is when he gets beat with speed on the outside. He's just bent over in half, trying to block with his butt straight up in the air. It's hard to describe without good motion. So assuming the position is probably the best term I'm going to use. But again, the Jaguars, their defense they're just not a good team. Like they added some cool players. Like Jalen Ramsey's good.
Then they add to Sean
Gibson. Yep.
Yeah, he's good. Malik Jackson's good.
They spent so much money on that defense this year or this offseason.
But they're just so bad, like coaching wise. Like it doesn't matter who's on their team. They're just awful. Blake Bortles has reverted to some primeval version of himself from last year. Like he's worse than his rookie year. I mean, he's just bad. I've been listening to the Keep Chopping Wood podcast with like Stoner and Hank, and Jags Twitter is like setting itself on fire. But the good thing is we were so worried about having to play Ramsey and Miles Jack, and with the Jaguars coaching staff refusal to play Miles Jack, we only have to go against Jalen Ramsey. No, unless they're playing him this week. I think he's taking.
They are?
I think he's taking Dan Scudda's snaps, which I believe is their will.
I don't know. It took them 3 weeks to figure that out. But
we'll have to see. I mean, They play us. They always play us tough. Doesn't matter who's on their team, who's on their coach. Jaguars have always played us tough. So it'll be a good game. Wide receiver, let's just real quick. Wide receiver wise, T.Y. Hilton is a man. Everyone else needs to show up. Chester Rogers is not good. Stop throwing him the ball.
If they don't play Miles Jack, you have to like Dwayne Allen and Jack Doyle going against Telvin Smith and Paul Posluszny.
Yeah, Telvin's actually the best player on their team.
Telvin's a good run defender, but a lot of people were saying like he's really athletic because like some people thought he was a safety, but like I guess he's like still not very good in pass coverage, which I thought it was like the opposite. I thought he was like poor against the run, but yeah, like their linebackers also a big problem in coverage, like the Colts.
We should see. I think we'll see a good game. I want to repay the 50 burger from last time. I don't think we will, but I'd love to see it. I mean, I'd love to see him drop 70 points on him, but we won't. We should. We could probably, but I don't know. The thing about London is that you just never know what you're going to get. Like, good teams go over there and they just have a bad time. And we're an okay team. So we could do really well. We could do really bad. I don't really know what's going to happen. It'll be an interesting game. For our West Coast family, Garrett and Jay, the game starts for 6:30 in the morning for them. So, that's awful. All right, so I guess we can just keep talking about the game. I mean, I think when it comes down to it, their defense can't match our offense. And our defense is really bad, and their offense is really bad. So I think we've got the slight edge. I think we've got a pretty big edge. But I'm not sure.
Last time I checked was a 1.5 in favor of Jacksonville, which is weird because even though it's technically home, Jaguars is obviously not a home game.
Yeah, it's not a home game, right?
So that means that the Jaguars would, if this game was in Jacksonville, be a 4.5 point favorites, which seems incredibly high for a team that's 0-3, and
they have the biggest point differential in the entire NFL. Wow. I can't even believe that they're just favorites listed. Like they literally have the worst point differential in the NFL. I think that's weird.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Oh my gosh, AJ Green is a beast. I got the game on over here. He's a monster. I'm glad we're not playing the Bengals. Wait, are we playing the Bengals this year?
I believe
so.
We
have the AFC North. Or no, we have the West and the NFC.
Yeah, we play the Steelers because they were second in their division last year. That's why.
Yeah.
That's how that
works. The spread has shifted now. It's now Indy -2 to Indy -3. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But when it opened, it was at Jags -1, 1.5.
I wish I would have known that because I would have taken that for the Colts all day long.
That's free money, I think.
That would have been, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's such a. They always play us hard, and they've got such a. They're weird. If there's a week where the Gus Bus motivational train comes in, it's this week, right?
It's the week when they're 0-3 and they're in London against the Colts.
This is the thing with awful coaches is they get one win that extends the optimism about the team. Like they're go 0-3, there's just pessimism. They win a divisional game and against a high-profile team, and everybody's back on board. And then they go 0-8 to finish the season or whatever. And I would not be surprised if that's the Gus Bradley.
The first part of that, I was like, we have no experience with that whatsoever. What's that like?
What I would like to see, I mean, I'd like to see it, but I don't really want to see it because I want Gus to be the coach of the Jaguars forever. But I would love to see us drop a 50 burger on them, and then Gus Bradley gets left in London.
In London, yeah.
It'd be great.
As does Pagano. That would be even better. But,
Right. See, what my dream for this game is, and I know this is awful, my dream for this game was for both teams to be 0-3 and tie. So they're both 0-0 and 1, or 0-3-1. That would have been the best storyline of all time.
We'd still only be a half game out of the division.
Exactly.
And then Pagano and Gus both get fired.
And speaking of that, the
division title.
The division is ours.
Yeah,
JJ Watt, their defense is bad without him. Let's just be real. Who else is on that defense?
Clowney. They got Clowney. They got some good corners.
Kareem Jackson's
their defense. Okay, well, are we going to pretend like their defense wasn't one of the best 3 in the NFL last year?
Yeah, but they played the
okay.
AFC
I mean, we can
South.
talk about schedule, but I mean their defense was amazing last year, and I mean I'm not.
I mean, they gave up
disagreeing
28
that-
points to Jacoby Brissett, I believe, so they can't be that good.
27 points.
27 points.
And that
But
was,
you take away Watt, and like Watt's the type of player who changes so much about how like everybody loves to talk crap about Watt, but he is the type of player that of course you have to double team and scheme around, and if you don't longer have to do that, it's like changes how you play that entire defense from an offensive perspective.
yep, absolutely. Game update, Gio Bernard is hurt. I know no one cares. Actually, I do, but because Jeremy Hill needs to get on the goal line and score me a touchdown. Yeah, that's why I hate fantasy. It just changes how you watch games. I'm actually going to be trying to get out of some fantasy next year, so I'm pretty excited about that.
It makes watching football so much less stressful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in 6 leagues, so it's just like everyone's on my team, right? Like I just want everyone to do well, which is good. But I still want to hate some people, which is always nice. But anyways, I mean, I think this game's easily a Colts victory. We'll just have to see how they come out. If we get good Blake Bortles, it'll be a shootout. If we don't get good Blake Bortles, it could be a really awful game that everyone woke up really early for.
Yeah, it'll be angry Twitter that it's the bad game, and they're going to be cranky too for the losses.
Yeah, they'll be like, "Oh my God, we had to watch the Colts in the morning."
No one's making you watch it, but yeah,
right. I mean, we can keep this one. It's been fairly short. So, do you guys got anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, what has Allen Robinson done this year? Because I mean, like we said, there's specific players in the league who can single-handedly control a game. And I know we didn't really mention T.Y. Hilton as being one of those, but we saw last week that T.Y. Hilton probably should be discussed in one of those players, especially as a wide receiver who you like have to game plan for during a game. Especially you didn't have to think that him against going Jason Verrett, but he did. So props to T.Y. Hilton for that. But yeah, I don't know what Allen Robinson's done this year. I mean, we can look up his stats, but I mean
he's been like
for.
slightly disappointing. I know because I'm a fantasy owner of him, but he's averaged like I think 60 yards or so a game. He only has like 2 touchdowns, and they both came against the Ravens. He's still the type of player who I think you do have to treat as one of those game-changing receivers, though he hasn't really done much with that label to earn that label this year.
But
just based on how good he was last year.
There.
I think that the teams have learned how to defend him because from little bits I've watched of Jaguars games on their offensive side, is he's getting that double coverage. And Hearns is wide open. Not wide open, but always covered. But, Hearns is not as good as he was advertised, especially not as good for his contract. So
that, and I'm not scared about T.J. Yeldon.
no,
either.
oh no, he's really bad. He's averaging less than 2 yards per carry.
Chris Ivory is a guy that
Is Chris Ivory
is
back
much
healthy?
better than Yeldon, but he is like coming back from an illness or something, and still not. I doubt.
Yeah, he was in the hospital, and I think that last week was his second week he was out, or maybe he's been out.
I think it was last week he made his first debut, and he did not much.
Yeah, T.J. Yeldon is like very slow behind the line, and there's patience for waiting for blocks, and then there's T.J. Yeldon just waiting for tacklers to come and tackle him, and they've been targeting him in screens a lot too. So I think that can maybe at least make the inside linebackers of the Colts, or even some of the outside linebackers, look very good if they keep throwing screens to T.J. Yeldon that their offensive line cannot block.
Yeah.
However, the problem is our linebackers and safeties. Well, Yeldon's not the threat. This is a week that Julius Thomas can go to town on us. He's probably the best tight end we've faced so far. Yeah, I think he's better than Ebron. So Thomas is really good, and I remember just thinking about the last time we played, or one of the last times we played him was that 2014 divisional win when I believe it was Laurent Landry. He beat Laurent Landry on like 3-wheel routes in the same game or something. It was awful. So Thomas, fantasy people start Thomas because we can't like that stat is really amazing. That if you throw to the tight end against the Colts defense so far, you've completed the pass and gotten pretty good results out of it. And I don't expect much to change with Thomas, but everybody else is other than Robinson. And again, the Colts will have a game plan to at least neutralize him to a degree. So Jaguars' offense isn't that threatening if Bortles continues to be as bad as he has been so far.
No, I agree. And
besides the Detroit game, like, okay, the defense has been bad, but like we can say it's like not the worst, and it's not one of the worst. I mean, how many points how many points was it in the Denver game that they gave up?
Like 20 in the Denver game, and like 20.
And most of those were,
game.
and most of those were defensive points that were scored
no,
by the Broncos.
That was without defensive scores.
Oh, without? Okay, so I mean 20. That's so like. Yeah, the Colts defense isn't good. C.O. Moore runs like a chicken with his fucking head cut off. The cornerbacks are all injured and coming back. Defensive line's injured, but it hasn't been the worst, and it's not maybe not even one of the worst. I can be a little overblown, but you have to. I know we don't like to be optimistic at sometimes about this defense, but you can be a little bit optimistic moving forward. And really, Henry Anderson is like so vital. And that's just something so much to look forward to.
It's interesting how the run defense immediately steps up and completely shuts down Melvin Gordon, which was incredibly impressive because Gordon has become a really good running back, at least so far this season, and the run defense was legitimately really good and like shut him down, which should give you optimism that this defense could be good enough to sometimes at least make offenses one-dimensional and hope that they just don't pick our linebackers apart too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah. No, good conversation there, guys. Sorry, I was kind of not paying attention. You guys are doing great. Totally paying attention, but not participating. Chris Ivory is the kind of running back that would just absolutely destroy us if he was healthy. So, but I don't think he is. So we'll have to see. It'll be an interesting game. Hope everyone enjoys it. I don't have anything else. I guess the last thing, get your hot takes ready. Take it or leave it is coming next week. I'll post multiple times on Twitter. Get your hashtag, take it or leave it in. Get it in there, and we'll have some fun with it. Those are always our favorite episodes. And
little quarter season recap.
Little, hopefully, 50 burger elation against the Jags. And I think we should have everybody on for that. I'm thinking Kyle will be back from his honeymoon, and Jay said he'll be on. He didn't come because.
Do we know where Kyle's honeymoon is?
No.
I know.
That's probably for the
best. Him on Twitter.
It's for the best. Yeah. No. We won't say where he's at. He's fine. He's doing good. I'm sure he's having a lot of fun. I'm not going to do that again this week. But anyways, I hope everyone has a good weekend. Enjoy your football. Houston is absolutely de-pantsing someone on national television. The Cougars, not the Texans. So football's good. Football's back. And we will see you guys next week. I gotta turn this off this way.